Greetings, dear ladies. I am Cryon of Magnetic Service. Every single time I come before you, I recognize there are different ones in the room. There are many listening to this who are not in the room as well. And I'll say the same thing every time. Don't let the male voice fool you. I am genderless, speaking through a male. I was there when you were. I want to talk a little bit very shortly about only 2 or 3 things. Suppositions, presumptions about who you are, who you've been, and what this is about. I start with this, a revelation for Yayi. Now, for those just joining us, Meli Ha is here. And she is that which you would call the leader of the Sisterhood and was in Lemuria in the last days. Yayi is here as well. Now, Yayi is the one who had the temple of rejuvenation on the top of the great mountain, Udite, called Hawaii. Now, Yayi, I would like to set something straight, just so you understand. Not everything is transmitted as you think when I talk to you. It's true, you never received that which was the beauty of the rejuvenation at the temple. You were always giving it. As the technician that you were, using that which you had, you were always able to give the rejuvenation process. And as you already know, a newborn was involved with the template of the Genesis cells that we've described even today. That's what you did. And we told you that you never received a rejuvenation, and yet you lived many times longer than most. So we told you that you used the tones. But that's not exactly true. You use the tones to touch it up. But here's what you need to know, and now the revelation. You were using a quantum healing technique, just as you do today. And if I ask you, what do you know about quantum fields specifically, you'll tell me they're not linear. That means the expectations of how much, how often, and all the things that you would call linear are not necessarily true. Here's what I want to tell you. As goes the healee, goes the healer. It's a two-way process. Here you sat, rejuvenating the lives of so many of the royalty and those that you were responsible for as Yayi, never realizing that every single time you did them, you were doing yourself. Every healer in the room and listening to this knows what I'm talking about. You know it. When you experience the healing and the aha experience of one getting off of the table, realizing that they are different when they got on, you are blessed. Some of you weep with joy. With them, you're both affected. That is quantum healing. Do I have to tell you about how that feels? Some of you in here who even give readings. When you give a reading and you celebrate something beautiful in the one who is read to, you are with them in the experience. It's a quantum experience. You have that, Yayi. The tones, that was the dessert. And you did it well. Shockingly accurate. Ladies, I would like to broach an issue I've never said before. We're going to call it presumption, and it's time. What draws you here? We've asked it before. The Sisterhood was special. It anchored Lemuria, anchored it. We have said this before, that what you did there literally set the energy and set the stage. There, the civilization of Lemuria was aware of the Sisterhood so much that it was almost like that which was royal. Respected it was, the men depended on you to set the spiritual tone of the island. And in doing that, as women, you had a camaraderie. Imagine being in this position where you set a spiritual energy that stuck to the civilization, and they ask you to do it, and you're responsible for it, and you could see it working. Now, that's what you remember, but that's not all you remember. Presumption. Logic based upon what? Only what you know today. So I broached this, and we've never discussed it before. This was a beginning civilization, and you were newbies at it. You didn't know about culture. You didn't know about society. None of these things. That had to grow with the planet. But what you did have, that the Pleiadians brought you as a starting point, was high consciousness. You were working at 44. Today you work at 33. I broached this to let you know this is what is so attractive to you. In your remembrance, some of you are remembering that which you cannot explain. Let me try to make this clearer. A person in a lower a west, let me start again. My partner, get this right. A person in a less aware state cannot then remember a state that they were never in this lifetime. So if you were a higher aware state then, you're not going to remember that because you don't have it now. All you will remember is the feeling of it. And that is attractive. The feeling of a high aware state has another, would you call it, side effect. How many times have you heard this? I was on Atlantis, where they had higher technology than they do today. I was on Lemuria, you've heard, where they had much higher technology than they do today. And the mind races with the possibilities of computers and lasers and whatever. Anti-gravity machines, things like that. I would like to tell you, none of that existed. None. What existed was high consciousness. A consciousness that was able to perform tasks as though you had those futuristic things. I'll call it the futuristic syndrome. You remember something you think you knew. Advanced technology, it was advanced consciousness. And with that, you were able to do some pretty startling things as women. Instant connections to source through that which you were taught by your Pleiadian teachers and some even parents. You had it. Oh, there's more. Presumption. My partner is on a stage, and he's asked the question, in the Pleiadian culture, since they were so advanced, did they choose or not choose to have physical childbirth? Who would do such a thing if you had a choice not to? My partner got the answer, but he didn't give it entirely until now. The answer was they chose physical childbirth. And that brought gasps from an audience, mostly of women, who thought this is just nuts. If you have the option not to have it that way, why would you choose it that way? The physical experience was needed and necessary, I gave to my partner, for the birth experience to be complete. And women walked away and said, I'm not sure I believe that. Now, what was not spoken at all is this, your presumption that childbirth is the same for them as for you, didn't you? I want to tell you something. It wasn't. question, how much pain was there with a Pleiadian? A completely different physiology, a whole different kind of attitude and perception, all kinds of consciousness changes, the way they were built, how they were designed, all of that. I'd like to tell you, childbirth was pleasant. How about that? No wonder they chose it. Nobody asked that question. Presumption. What were you able to do back then? You were able to control the processes of your body more than you know. Haven't you learned that today? With those processes that you're learning in healing, you can make chemical changes with your thoughts. Your innate is tuned to eliminate disease and all manner of things, to release DNA, to be more advanced, evolved, and like it was designed. Now put yourself in the sisterhood for a moment and see yourself in that state, healthy, knowing these things, able to control pain in your body. Some of the things that today are not pleasant were unthought then. There was no consciousness because they were not an issue. And you remember that. No wonder you're attracted to a higher consciousness. You don't know what it was because you cannot think above the level of where you are. As you grow and evolve, the sisterhood experience is going to become clearer to you. Some of you will even remember the songs. Not the tones, the songs. There were songs. And they will sing in your head and you will remember a beauty that you had, the camaraderie that you had, the control that you had over your own selves. Beautiful it was. No wonder you're attracted to it. I was there. I was there for all of it. Don't presume anything. Understand, maybe there's more to the story than you know. Meliha, begin the meeting. And so it is.